George Steele was one of wrestling's most intelligent performers. Yet he was condemned to spend his entire career grunting like a caveman. The man with a master's degree communicated only in monosyllabic gibberish. The respected high school teacher and football coach pretended to be an imbecile who ate turnbuckles and could barely form words. For over 2 decades, he maintained this illusion so perfectly that most fans had no idea the savage beast they watched on television was actually a college-educated professional. This is the story of Jim Myers, the educated wild man who lived 2 completely separate lives. William James Myers was born on April 16, 1937, in Detroit, Michigan, and raised in Madison Heights. From the very beginning, school was a nightmare. He could not read run, spot, run in kindergarten like the other kids. He failed 2nd grade. Children laughed at him constantly. What nobody understood at the time was that Myers had dyslexia. The condition was poorly understood in the 1940s, and there was no diagnosis, no accommodation, no help. He was simply written off as dumb at a young age and left to struggle on his own. But Myers refused to quit. He found his identity in athletics, lettering an incredible 16 times in high school across 4 sports. He earned 4 letters each in track, basketball, baseball, and football. His athletic ability earned him a football scholarship to Michigan State University in 1956, where he would play for the Spartans. His college football career ended almost before it began. Knee problems sidelined him immediately, crushing his dreams of athletic glory. But Myers had learned something important from his years of struggling with dyslexia. When one door closes, you find another way. A mentor at Michigan State named Roy Niemeyer changed his life. Niemeyer talked Myers's professors into letting him take oral exams instead of written ones. This simple accommodation allowed Myers to demonstrate what he actually knew without being sabotaged by his reading difficulties. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree from Michigan State and later a master's degree from Central Michigan University. The kid who failed 2nd grade, the one everyone thought was stupid, became a college-educated man with an advanced degree. Myers returned to his hometown and became a teacher, amateur wrestling coach, and football coach at Madison High School in Madison Heights, Michigan. He had found his calling. He taught health and physical education. He coached football, wrestling, and track. He was good at it, beloved by his students and respected by his colleagues. There was just one problem. Teachers in the early 1960s did not make much money. Myers was earning $4,300 a year. He had 2 kids already and a 3rd on the way. He needed to find a way to supplement his income. A local promoter in Detroit was looking for wrestlers. Myers had the physique and the athletic background. He figured he could wrestle on weekends and during summer breaks without anyone knowing. To protect his identity and his teaching career, he wore a mask and called himself the Student. He even wore a cap and gown to the ring. Gary Hart, who would go on to become one of wrestling's most famous managers, was assigned to handle the Student. It was Hart's first managing job. His role was to explain to the announcers why his client could not apply any legitimate wrestling holds or maneuvers, relying instead on undisciplined brute strength. The character was established as a wild man who could not be controlled. For several years, Myers lived this double life. During the school year, he was Coach Myers, the respected educator who helped young people achieve their potential. On weekends and during breaks, he was the Student, a masked maniac who terrorized opponents in Detroit area wrestling shows. His students had no idea. His colleagues had no idea. Only his wife, Pat, whom he had married before entering Michigan State in 1956, knew the truth. In 1967, everything changed. The Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion Bruno Sammartino was wrestling a show in Detroit when he spotted Myers. Sammartino was impressed by the wild man character Myers had developed and invited him to Pittsburgh to work on the popular studio wrestling television show. There was one condition: no mask. Myers was terrified. Without the mask, someone might recognize him. His teaching career could be destroyed. But the money Sammartino was offering was too good to pass up. He needed a new name. One story says he borrowed the name from a rival high school coach named George Steele, approaching him at halftime of a game and asking permission. Another story claims that Pittsburgh wrestler Jumpin' Johnny DeFazio suggested Jim Steele since they were in the Steel City. Myers did not like Jim and suggested George instead. Either way, George Steele was born. Myers told the television commentators that he was the nephew of legendary wrestler Ray Steele and had an extensive amateur background. He sold the story by using an array of arm locks on opponents, weakening them for his finisher, the flying hammerlock. The Pittsburgh territory was perfect for developing his character. The studio wrestling show on WWEC-TV Channel 11 was enormously popular in the region. Bill Cardill, the television announcer, became an integral part of Steele's presentation. Steele would call him Daddy O and play up the contrast between his articulate villain persona and his supposedly uncontrollable violent urges. The territory had strong leaders in the locker room. Dr. Bill Miller, Johnny DeFazio, and Lou Albano helped guide the young performer. Steele traveled with Albano and Tony Altimore to smaller towns like Johnstown, Altoona, and Uniontown. He learned the business from veterans like Waldo von Erich, Joe Abbey, Baron Schickluna, Frank Holtz, Frank Dorso, Bucky Palermo, Ace Freeman, and Rudy Miller. In those days, Bruno was the greatest, Steele recalled. I really had a ton of respect for Bruno Sammartino as a man. We had some great runs together, and with Bruno and me, it was as tough as you could get in the ring. It was the real deal. We would beat each other up. We always knew who was going to win, but we really went at it the hard way. What happened next was unexpected. Steele proved he could actually wrestle. He went to an hour-long draw with Bruno Sammartino at Madison Square Garden. In Boston, he got a clean win over top babyface Victor Rivera at a huge Fenway Park outdoor show using the flying hammerlock submission. He could talk, he could wrestle, and he was drawing money. Then he was relegated to a feud with Chief Jay Strongbow, and something was missing. The matches were technically competent, but boring. The crowds were not reacting. Steele needed something to make his character stand out. The green tongue happened completely by accident. At a television taping, Steele had a few drinks beforehand and did not want the promoter to know. He popped some Clorette's breath mints to hide the smell and went on camera. Color television had just become widespread in the late 1960s, and when Steele appeared on screen, his tongue was bright green from the mints. He had no idea until afterward, but the reaction was immediate. Fans went crazy. The next week, people showed up with signs featuring green tongues. Steele tried it again a few months later, just for laughs, and the place went nuts. From then on, he had the very best breath in wrestling. The turnbuckle-eating came from an equally unexpected source. In Pittsburgh, the studio wrestling shows would give away promotional items to attract audiences. One day they gave away small satin couch pillows. During his match, an angry female fan threw her pillow at Steele. He stood in the ring holding this pillow, trying to figure out what to do. If he threw it back, he would have 250 pillows flying at him. So he took a bite out of it. The pillow was packed so tightly with stuffing that it exploded when his teeth tore through it. Stuffing went everywhere, sticking to his hair like an abominable snowman. Steele wrapped the pillow around his opponent's head and started choking him. The crowd went absolutely wild. Bruno Sammartino's wrestling cousin Tony Marino made a suggestion. Maybe you should start tearing the turnbuckles. Everyone laughed. 2 or 3 weeks later, Steele was wrestling Chief Jay Strongbow in a match that was going nowhere. The people just were not reacting. So Steele quit wrestling and started eating the turnbuckle instead. It turned into a riot. Howls, hoots. From that moment on, the turnbuckle became his signature. The impact was so significant that WWE eventually changed their turnbuckle design from many small pieces of stuffing to one large piece of foam, specifically because of George Steele. Now the gimmick was complete. The bald head, the stooped posture, the thick mat of fur covering his back and chest, the bright green tongue hanging out of his mouth, the incomprehensible grunting and growling, the turnbuckle-eating. Wrestling broadcasters speculated that George, the animal Steele, might actually be the missing link between man and ape. The irony was exquisite. Here was a man with a master's degree, a respected educator who shaped young minds, pretending to be a subhuman beast who could barely function. And nobody knew. The gibberish promo style that defined his World Wrestling Federation career happened completely by accident. At a television taping in the early 1980s, Steele was cutting one of his articulate villain promos when Vince McMahon stopped him mid-sentence and said, "Your gimmick is the animal. For an animal, you are making too much sense." Steele was furious. Out of pure frustration, he did a second take consisting of nothing but garbled syllables. "Duh-dah." He did it sarcastically, certain McMahon would realize how ridiculous it was. McMahon's response was immediate. "That's exactly what I want." And so one of wrestling's best talkers was reduced to grunting nonsense for the rest of his career. Somehow, it only made him more popular. For nearly 20 years, George Steele was one of the most hated villains in professional wrestling. He feuded with every major star the World Wrestling Federation had to offer. Bruno Sammartino, Gorilla Monsoon, Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund. He was managed by the greatest heel managers of the era, including the Grand Wizard, classy Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano, and Mr. Bafuji. He never won a world championship, but he came close many times. More importantly, he drew money everywhere he went. The fans genuinely hated him, and their hatred translated into ticket sales. One time, a fan came at him with a knife after he wrestled Pedro Morales. Another time, a mob chased his taxi through Manhattan after his battle with Bruno Sammartino at Madison Square Garden. "If you are good at what you do," Myers explained, "the people absolutely hate you." Steele learned from some of the best. He worked extensively with the Sheik in Detroit and considered him one of the greatest heels of all time. He was lucky to learn from the Sheik, he said. That education in the art of being hated served him well for the rest of his career. The key to Steele's success was his unpredictability. Opponents never knew what he would try next. He would sneak foreign objects into the ring and use them in ways that made it look like the referee simply could not see what was happening. He was a master of making chaos look uncontrollable while actually being in complete control of every moment. Throughout this entire period, Myers maintained his teaching career. He worked at Madison High School during the week, then drove hundreds of miles on weekends to wrestle. He would get home at 4 in the morning and be up for work at 7. During summer breaks and school vacations, he worked a fuller wrestling schedule. Myers remembered that when he came home, they had to get George in the box and remove Jim out of the box. He said that if it had not been for his wife, he would have gone nuts. He did not know if anyone normal could have lived that way. His students occasionally got suspicious. Kids who had moved from the Northeast where World Wrestling Federation television was broadcast sometimes recognized him and asked, "Is that you? You are a wrestler. You are George Steele." Myers had a standard response. "Do you really think I am that ugly?" In 1985, everything changed again. George Steele had been a villain for nearly 2 decades. On the first episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, he was scheduled for a 6-man tag match, teaming with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik against Ricky Steamboat and the US Express. During the match, Volkov and the Iron Sheik abandoned Steele, leaving him alone against 3 opponents. He lost, of course, but something more important happened. Captain Lou Albano, who had recently turned babyface himself, came to the ring to console the confused and hurt animal. The fans, who had booed George Steele for 18 years, suddenly felt sympathy for him. The wild beast had been betrayed by his own partners. He was alone and confused. In that moment, one of the most hated men in wrestling became one of its most beloved figures. The transformation was remarkable. Steele's character evolved from a menacing monster into a sympathetic man-child. He could still be dangerous when provoked, but now he was like a misunderstood creature who just wanted to be loved. The World Wrestling Federation produced vignettes showing him on trips to the zoo and the ice cream factory. He started carrying a stuffed animal named Mine to the ring. The genius of the babyface animal was that he retained all the physical traits that had made him terrifying as a heel. The green tongue, the hairy body, the turnbuckle-eating, the inability to communicate normally. But now these traits were endearing rather than frightening. Audiences understood that beneath the savage exterior was a gentle soul who simply wanted connection and affection. Gorilla Monsoon, the legendary commentator, once said on air that he did not know what went on in the head of George the Animal Steele. But then again, he added, neither did George. That line perfectly captured the new character. The animal was not stupid in a malicious way. He was innocent and childlike, operating on instinct and emotion rather than calculation. This new babyface persona set up the most famous feud of Steele's career. In early 1986, George Steele developed a crush on Miss Elizabeth, the beautiful manager of Intercontinental Champion Randy Savage. The storyline was simple but brilliant. The animal had fallen in love with Elizabeth's kindness and beauty. The jealous Macho man was furious that this creature would even look at his woman. The feud was originally supposed to last only a couple of months and end with Steele being disappointed. But the fans loved it so much that it continued well into 1987. At WrestleMania 2 on April 7, 1986, Savage defended his Intercontinental Championship against Steele. The animal was more interested in winning Elizabeth's heart than capturing the gold. And that made the match compelling. Steele became the first man in the World Wrestling Federation to kick out of Savage's flying elbow drop, showing incredible resilience. But Savage found a way to retain through nefarious means. Behind the scenes, the feud created real tension. Savage was notoriously jealous about Elizabeth in real life. She was his girlfriend, and later his wife, and he did not like anyone getting too close to her, even in a storyline. Steele later laughed about it. He assured Savage that he had a daughter older than Elizabeth, and that his infatuation was just for the show. But he also called Savage the most jealous man he ever met. The feud continued through house shows and television, building to what was supposed to be the final confrontation. On Saturday night's main event, Savage put his title and Miss Elizabeth on the line in a lumberjack match. If Steele won, he would get both. Steele lost when referee turned wrestler Danny Davis interfered. But the story was far from over. Steele then turned his attention to Danny Davis, eventually defeating him on a November 1987 episode of Saturday night's main event. Meanwhile, the relationship between Savage and Elizabeth was evolving on screen. When the honky-tonk man struck Elizabeth, Savage's protective instincts toward her became more visible. The bizarre love triangle with Steele quietly faded as Savage's character shifted. Randy was a great worker, Steele said in a 2008 interview. Their matches were not wrestling classics compared to what Savage would produce with Ricky Steamboat, but they had their own charm. You rooted for Steele because he was the underdog. You wanted him to get the girl and the gold. If he could only get one, fans would have preferred the girl. The storyline produced several memorable spots. When Savage tried to clothesline Steele, the animal would catch Savage's arm and start biting him. Savage showcased his ability to sell punishment, bumping like a madman for Steele's offense. The chemistry between the cerebral macho man and the instinctive animal created something special. At WrestleMania 3 on March 29, 1987, over 93,000 fans packed the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan, George Steele's home state. The Intercontinental Championship match between Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat is considered one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. And George Steele played a crucial role. Steele was in Steamboat's corner. During the match, when Savage tried to use the ring bell as a weapon from the top rope, Steele took it away from him. When Savage kicked Steele and took the bell back, Steele shoved Savage off the top rope. This allowed Steamboat to roll up Savage for the pin and win the championship. The Animal had finally gotten his revenge on the Macho Man, and in one of wrestling's most legendary matches, George Steele was right there in the middle of it. In early 1986, Myers finally retired from teaching to pursue wrestling full-time. He had spent 25 years balancing both careers, turning down what he described as a fortune by returning to Madison High every fall. In his autobiography, he explained why. "Coaching is what I believe God put me on earth to do, even more so than yanking hidden objects out of my wrestling trunks." By 1986, he was entering his 50s. His body was breaking down, and wrestling was offering more money than ever during the national expansion boom. It was time to make the switch. He did not know that his full-time wrestling career would last only 2 more years. In 1988, George Steele was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, an inflammatory bowel condition that causes severe digestive problems. There is no cure. The disease can only be managed and hopefully brought into remission. For Myers, the diagnosis was devastating. He had also suffered a knee injury at a house show earlier that year. At WrestleMania 4, he participated in a battle royal, but stayed outside the ring the entire time because of his injuries. Late in 1988, George Steele retired from full-time competition. The Animal, who had terrorized audiences for over 2 decades, was finally put in his cage. The story did not end there. Myers became a road agent for the WWE, working behind the scenes to help plan matches and mentor younger wrestlers. He was released in October 1990 due to budget cuts, but was quickly rehired and continued working as an agent until the late 1990s. In 1994, he got an unexpected opportunity. Director Tim Burton was making a biopic about Ed Wood, the filmmaker often called the worst director in Hollywood history. The movie would star Johnny Depp as Wood and Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. Burton needed someone to play Tor Johnson, the Swedish professional wrestler who appeared in several of Wood's films. George Steele was perfect for the role. He had been mistaken for Tor Johnson throughout his career. They shared the same bald head, the same massive frame, the same distinctive appearance. A New York novelty shop had even sold Tor Johnson masks as George Steele masks to increase sales. Steele's performance was praised for its authenticity. He captured Johnson's bumbling, monstrous screen presence perfectly. There is a scene in the film where Tor Johnson misses a door and walks into a wall, shaking the set. When the cameraman asks Ed Wood if he wants another shot, Wood replies thoughtfully that in actuality, Lobo would have to struggle with that problem every day. It was a perfect encapsulation of both Ed Wood's delusional optimism and Tor Johnson's limitations as a performer. Ed Wood became a cult classic, earning an Academy Award for Martin Landau's portrayal of Bela Lugosi. The film also earned an Oscar for makeup. Critics praised the entire ensemble, including Steele. The role introduced him to an entirely new audience who had never seen him wrestle, establishing him as a legitimate character actor rather than just a wrestler doing a cameo. Steele appeared in other films and television shows throughout the 1990s and the 2000s. He had roles in Blowfish, Small Town Conspiracy, where he played a character named Tortuga Jack, and South of Heaven. He appeared in a Minolta commercial alongside Tony Randall. In 2008, he co-starred with Greg Valentine in a short film called Something Fishy about 2 former wrestlers purchasing a fishing camp. The film was intended as a pilot for a comedy series that unfortunately was never developed further. His status as a pop culture icon extended beyond acting. The television show Seinfeld referenced him to explain one of Jerry's girlfriends having man hands. A punk rock band called Half Japanese recorded a song titled George Steele on their album Charmed Life. He had become more than just a wrestler, he was an American cultural touchstone. In 1995, George Steele received the ultimate honor in professional wrestling. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Doink the Clown served as his inductor, and the ceremony featured a cameo video appearance from Bill Murray, his co-star from Ed Wood. That same year, Myers was also inducted into the Michigan High School Coaches Hall of Fame, recognizing his 25 years of dedication to education. In 2006, he was inducted into the Michigan High School Football Association Coaches Hall of Fame. The football stadium at Madison High School was eventually named Jim Myers Stadium in his honor. The dyslexic kid who failed second grade had become a Hall of Famer twice over, in two completely different fields. Myers never fully retired from wrestling. In 1997, he teamed with Taka Michinoku, of all people, on an episode of Monday Night Raw against Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher. The pairing was absurd: a Japanese junior heavyweight and a 60-year-old turnbuckle-eating wild man, but that was part of the fun. In 1998, during the WWE Attitude Era, he made a more extended return as part of the Oddities, a stable of unusual characters that included Kurgan, Giant Silver, Golga, and Luna Vachon. He was introduced bursting out of a giant gift-wrapped box to attack the Headbangers. He even won a match against Headbanger Mosh on Sunday Night Heat by using a hidden foreign object, proving the animal still had some tricks left. He lost to Greg Valentine at the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view in October 1999, a notoriously disastrous event that is remembered as one of the worst wrestling shows ever produced. Sensational Sherry served as his manager for the match. It was a strange footnote in an otherwise distinguished career. In January 2000, he made his only WCW appearance. Commissioner Terry Funk brought in several legends to face Jeff Jarrett in a series of matches on Monday Nitro. Steele faced Jarrett in a bunkhouse match, winning when Arn Anderson hit Jarrett with a spinebuster, and special referee Chris Benoit counted the pin. The crowd popped huge for Steele and everything he did. He was 63 years old. His final televised WWE appearance came on November 15, 2010, during an old-school Raw special. In the middle of a match between Kofi Kingston and David Otunga, Steele made a surprise appearance. He entered the ring shouting, "Eat, eat," until the referee got in his way. Steele simply walked to another corner and ate that turnbuckle instead. The referee told him that is enough, and George Steele left to the cheers of the crowd. Otunga looked utterly confused. Kofi got up, rammed Otunga's head into the exposed turnbuckle, and hit Trouble in Paradise for the pin. It was the perfect final moment, 73 years old. And George, the Animal Steele, was still getting over by doing what he had done for 43 years, eating turnbuckles and making people smile. Throughout his retirement, Myers battled Crohn's disease. In 1998, doctors told him his condition had gone into remission. But in 2002, to prevent the symptoms from returning, he had his entire colon removed. In his autobiography Animal, released in 2013, he revealed that he had suffered near-fatal bouts with the disease throughout his retirement. Myers was a devout Christian who attended the First Baptist Church in Merritt Island and lived in Cocoa Beach, Florida, with his wife Pat. They had been married since before he entered Michigan State in 1956. Together, they raised 3 children, a daughter named Felicia and 2 sons named Dennis and Randy. Family mattered to him. In May 2016, Myers began sharing about his declining health on social media. He posted a message that said, "Just to let everyone know that I am dealing with some serious health challenges right now. I am at peace with whatever God's plan is for me, knowing that God is always in control. Prayers continue to be appreciated." On February 16, 2017, William James Myers died in hospice care due to kidney failure. He was 79 years old. The day after his death, a video he had recorded was posted to YouTube. In it, he shared stories from his life growing up in Metro Detroit. his struggles with dyslexia, his wrestling career, and his faith. He opened the video with a laugh. "If you are watching this," he said with a big grin, "I am dead and I am with Jesus. Bye-bye." WWE aired a heartfelt tribute video on the February 20th episode of Raw, recapping his career highlights and featuring testimonials from fellow wrestlers. The company released a statement that captured his legacy perfectly. Long after his in-ring retirement and WWE Hall of Fame induction, George the Animal Steele's name still evoked terror for one generation of WWE fans and warm smiles for another. There has never been another character quite like George Steele in professional wrestling. The green tongue, the hairy body, the turnbuckle-eating, the incomprehensible grunting. These elements combined to create something unique and unforgettable. What made Steele special was not just the character, but the commitment to it. For over 20 years, he maintained kayfabe perfectly, never breaking character in public, never letting fans see the intelligent man behind the savage mask. Even when students recognized him, he deflected with humor rather than breaking the illusion. "Do you really think I am that ugly?" It was a non-denial that preserved the mystery. His physical appearance was genuinely striking. The bald head contrasted with the thick mat of fur covering his back and chest, creating an almost prehistoric image. Add in the stooped posture, the bulging eyes, and that bright green tongue, and you had something that looked like it had emerged from a nightmare. Children were genuinely frightened of him. Adults believed they were watching something dangerous and uncontrollable. But underneath that terrifying exterior was a gentle soul. Myers was a devoted husband and father. He was a caring teacher who inspired his students. He was a devout Christian who found peace in his faith. The contrast between who he was and who he pretended to be might be the most remarkable thing about his entire career. But the real magic of George Steele was the man behind the character. Jim Myers overcame a learning disability that could have derailed his entire life. He earned advanced degrees when everyone thought he was stupid. He balanced two completely separate careers for over 2 decades. He was a respected educator who shaped young lives by day and a feared wrestling villain by night. When asked about his dyslexia, Myers offered advice that revealed his philosophy on life. He said he believed that when you have a handicap or a challenge, God gives you a gift in the other direction. For people with dyslexia, that gift is often a tremendous memory. My wife, who was a math teacher with a high IQ, is blown away with the things that I can remember from the past, Myers said. He turned his supposed weakness into a strength. He used his memory and his charisma to create one of wrestling's most memorable characters. And he proved that you can be anything you want to be, no matter what obstacles stand in your way. The Animal may have been a grunting, turnbuckle-eating wild man who could barely form sentences. But Jim Myers was one of the smartest, most dedicated, and most successful men ever to step into a wrestling ring. He just happened to have a green tongue. George, the Animal, Steele lived 2 lives, and he excelled at both of them. He was inducted into halls of fame for wrestling and for coaching. He appeared in major motion pictures. He entertained millions of fans for over 4 decades. He educated and mentored countless young people. His championships may have been limited to a single NWA World Tag Team Championship reign with Frankie Lane in Detroit in 1980, and a brief Superstars of Wrestling Canadian Heavyweight Championship run the same year. He never held World Wrestling Federation gold. But championships were never the point of George Steele. He was a special attraction, a character so unique that putting a title on him would have diminished rather than elevated him. The proof of his value lies in his longevity. He remained relevant and popular with audiences from 1967 to 2010, a span of 43 years. How many wrestlers can claim that? How many characters transcend their era so completely that they still get massive reactions decades after their prime? And through it all, he maintained his faith, his family, and his sense of humor. That was George Steele. That was Jim Myers, a man who refused to let anything stop him from achieving his dreams, whether those dreams involved teaching high school students or pretending to be a subhuman beast on national television. There will never be another one like him. Like and subscribe for more Territory Wrestling documentaries. Until next time.